government at the next election.
Mr. Chair,
Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr. Chair, I disagree with my colleague in one respect, and it's simply this: that the title of this legislation is slightly incomplete, in that it could be well titled and amended to the Walk the Talk Bill, or Practice What You Preach Bill, because if we look at financial reporting in this piece of legislation which we support, this government has the great habit of preaching to everybody else about their standards and their level of transparency and their level of accountability until it comes to themselves. And one of the best examples with that, and I do partly blame the Treasury for this, they stood by and allowed it to happen, was the fact that the government in its budgetary documents booked the proceeds from the sale of state-owned assets that they had not sold, and they estimated $5 to $7 billion, and we know Bill English ain't even going to get close, or he might get close to 5 at best. So they booked the proceeds from the sale of assets before they'd been sold, but did not book the loss of dividends from those sales once they went out the door. So they booked it coming in, but didn't book it coming out. So these guys are great, even though we support the legislation, at preaching to everybody else about standards and accountability, whether it be a beneficiary or a flash guy on the high street. Very, very good at preaching about accountability and transparency and standards, and even accounting standards, until it comes to themselves. Now, I've been in business, a number of people in this House have been in business. You tell me anybody in their right mind who would book the proceeds from a sale that hadn't happened, so they didn't actually know how much they're going to get. Best guess was the quote from the Finance Minister, Bill English, but failed to book the loss of dividends that would flow from said sale. That's dishonest. And Goldfinger at the back knows it. That's dishonest. Utterly unaccountable, utterly untransparent, and totally dishonest. So I say maybe this should be called the Financial Reporting Walk the Talk Bill, or Practice What You Preach Bill, or Do Unto Others, to quote the biblical phrase. And they ought to actually look at themselves as they pass this piece of legislation. It is right that we have appropriate and high quality standards in our financial businesses, and generally businesses do actually, they do, and in our charitable sectors and those transacting business. But as they pass this legislation tonight or tomorrow morning, I wonder those businesses looking at a government, how it cooks its own books in respect of the mixed ownership model, $5 to $7 billion? No, it was $7 billion from the get-go. Then it went to 5 to 7. Now we think it'll be about 4.8, 4.9 bill. $1 billion down on Meridian, $100 million down on Mighty River Power, and they get up and they celebrate because they got $100 million extra, $365 million for Air New Zealand, which equates to 36 hours of operating expenditure for the government. And they say, we got 100 mil, we're heroes. Yeah, so it's gone from a $1.1 billion stuff up to $1 billion stuff up. Grab a seat, grab a share, we're all happy, and they take the dough and run. But they didn't account for it appropriately, and they didn't live up to their own accounting standards that they preach in this legislation. So I say to the Minister, he might want to reflect on that, and his own colleagues reflect on that in the passage of this legislation. Because I'm sure there might be one or two people, even in Hamilton or the outer terrestrial areas that member comes from, there might be a few businesses in his patch who actually look at this and say, well, if we're expected to adhere to these standards, why doesn't the government? Why doesn't the government adhere to the standards if we're expected to? What business in that member's electorate would book the proceeds from a sale that hadn't happened but not book the dividends? I asked the member, does he know of a business? Does he know of a business? Does he know of a business? Oh, no. Oh, the old billiard ball, yeah, the old can rattled. Silence. Silence deafening. There is no such business. They'd be in jail. I say to that member as he crawls behind his desk.
The question is that Clause 1 stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary no. The ayes have it. The question is that the Minister's amendments to Clause 2 set out on SOP 376 be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that clause 2 as amended stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Minister.
Mr Chairman, I move supplementary order paper number 392 dividing the bill.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. I will report this bill with amendment and so divided presently.
Thanks, Pete. Thank you. I thought you were brilliant.
Members, the House is resumed. Mr Chairman.
Mr Speaker, the committee has considered the Financial Reporting Bill and reports it with amendment and divided into the following bills: the Financial Reporting Bill and the Financial Reporting Amendments and Other Enactments Bill. Mr Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
The question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The Financial Reporting Bill and the Financial Reporting Amendments and Other Enactments Bill are set down for third reading forthwith.
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Craig Foss.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Financial Report